Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this month's special interview and an incredible guest coming live from the USA. It's a pleasure to have on Tony Frick, the Chairman, President and CEO of GlobalFit. I would say a new brand. We often have new startups on the show, but they're very much not a new startup. They've been in the industry for a long time, evolving, developing and growing, as Tony will now share. Tony, great to have us with you, and thanks very much for about to share the GlobalFit story. Let's start off with perhaps some of the people that don't know GlobalFit. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, first of all, Ross, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And thanks for all the great work that you do on kind of communicating the mission of fitness and wellness to all of your listeners and your readers. As you mentioned, GlobalFit is not a new brand, 30 years old this year. Started when myself and a lot of our employees were in elementary school here in the United States, but has evolved tremendously over the past 3 decades. So our mission really is to educate and empower consumers to utilize their no-cost and low-cost wellness benefits. So what does that mean? Let me unpack that for you. So we have products that kind of run the gamut from fitness, nutrition, mindfulness, mental health, wellness reimbursement. And they're all sponsored by insurers and employers, so that they're kind of fully subsidized or partially subsidized to the point where they're no cost or low cost to the employee or the insurance member. And in this market where there's a lot of direct-to-consumer brands where you're paying out of pocket and pretty significant retail prices, our argument and message to the consumer base is leverage what you have available to you through your employer and your insurer. And a perfect example of that is there's a lot of costly direct-to-consumer nutrition offerings out there. Most folks in the United States have free clinical registered dietitian visits through their commercial insurance plan. That's a large P&L for us. And it's something that we've seen a ton of growth because we're driving significant outcomes. So that's where GlobalFit is today. And I think we're going to continue to add a number of new verticals going forward across kind of wellness in a very holistic sense.
30 years old. Congratulations. What an anniversary to get to, Tony. Congratulations to you and the team. Let's look at employee health and well-being, because there's no doubt that COVID and the pandemic has shone a light on perhaps some of the deficiencies in employee health and well-being programs. In terms of the last 12 to 24 months, you've been working extensively with insurers and corporates. Have you seen a greater appetite, a greater demand for more of these companies to come onto the platform? And in doing so, how have their perhaps expectations and their demands changed pre-pandemic through pandemic?
Yep. So from an individual perspective, COVID-19 forced all of us to kind of refocus on our priorities and refocus on our health and our wellness, and take the preventative steps that we might have been neglecting because life gets in the way, et cetera, to really make sure that we're maintaining our health. I think there wasn't a lot of positives during COVID, but I think that was one of them. As a result, you see employers and insurers seeing it as really their obligation and their duty to invest in the wellness of their insurance members and their employees. I think from the employer standpoint, I think even more significantly than COVID-19 is just the paradigm shift among employers that they now see it very much as their duty to take care of the whole employee. And what do I mean by that? If you go back 30 years, all you really had was your health insurance and your 401k plan. Now employers are very much seeing it as their obligation to take care of the whole person. Because you don't leave financial stress at home, you don't leave a mental health issue at home, you don't leave kind of your chronic health condition at home. You bring that to the workplace. And what our clients are doing and what they're seeing is really a duty to invest in the whole person. So that I think is even exacerbated by the fact that it's a very tight labor market, both domestically and internationally. In order to kind of compete for talent and retain talent, you need to invest in the health and wellness of your employees. And it's kind of coupled with the fact that we're seeing a generational shift in the workplace, and 20 and 30 something employees demand a lot more from their employer than a 50 and 60 year old employee. And we're seeing that younger generation really demand of their employer these type of benefits, which is driving significant increased demand among GlobalFit's offerings and a lot of our competitors in the marketplace.
Are you seeing a difference in terms of large corporates and small corporates and how flexible they are with their programs and the needs they have in their creation of their benefits and wellness programs? Is there a difference in the type of company, the type of industry that comes to you and what they're actually looking for?
Yep. So, I mean, we have some clients that were trailblazers in corporate wellness 30 years ago when the only offering was, our discount big box gym network. And that was so revolutionary back in the early 90s. And really only large corporates were the ones that had the budget and the teams to roll out and support offerings like this. I think what we've seen in the marketplace and what GlobalFit has tried to lead is penetration of these offerings kind of down market to your medium-sized and smaller employers. And what we're seeing is large corporates are increasing their budgets significantly. And what we're seeing now is mid-sized and smaller employees actually allocating dollars in this space. What GlobalFit has tried to do is almost be this a la carte menu of offerings that is very budget friendly. So you can roll all of our offerings together in a very immersive, broad, far-reaching offering that touches all of your employees and all of their needs and addresses the needs of a Fortune 500 company. You can also, though, kind of pick and choose off this a la carte menu to address kind of the significant chronic issues among your employee population. And that's enabled us to be very price competitive and very flexible as you push down market, which has resulted in us having a lot of penetration in smaller sub 100 employer groups. And what we found is they might start with a fitness offering, they might start with a nutrition offering, they see great engagement, great outcomes, and then in year 2, year 3, they're bolting on another offering to address kind of another need in their organization. And that's really been our approach, to be as flexible as possible for our employer groups.
Let's dig into that a la carte menu, because I suppose pre-pandemic, there was obviously digital was part of that a la carte menu, but throughout the pandemic, there's certainly been a huge influx of content, influx of the way that people can, I suppose, engage employees both in the fitness and the wellness, and whether that's financial advice, spiritual meditation, mindfulness. But looking specifically at this digital and virtual world, what are your thoughts at the moment in terms of how you see GlobalFit using digital content, where that content landscape is going to move out to, and how you're going to work with it in the future?
Yep. So, I mean, we learned our lesson, I think, in our first 2 decades as an organization with respect to kind of skating to where the puck is going to be, to use a hockey analogy. We started investing in digital content back in 2017. It was a smaller market then, but we started to see the evolution. We had no idea and no expectation on the growth of digital that we saw during the pandemic. I think what you saw there was an amazing adoption among the consumer population to recognize that if they only have 30 minutes and they can't get in the car, get to the studio, do the workout, get home, get their kids fed, put them to bed, I mean, that's a 3-hour journey as opposed to a 20-minute HIIT class from home. It's really leveled the playing field, and I think advanced the ability for folks to really stay fit and healthy in a very time-constrained manner. So, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I mean, in 2020, all the experts were saying that in-person was dead. 2022, it's digital content is dead. We've always seen a hybrid future, and we continue to see that. There will always be a place for quality content that is driving real outcomes. And that's just not siloed in fitness. That's similar for nutrition and mental health and financial wellness and reimbursements and a lot of the other things that we're moving into in the future. I mean, just look at how our registered dietitians had to operate pre-pandemic. They went on site, they occupied a conference room, and then had employees come in to deliver an hour-long meeting. But they had to drive to the site. There was all these costs associated with delivering that experience. Now our registered dietitian works from home anywhere in the country and can see more patients in a given day and have a broader impact for a much lower cost. So for us, we see kind of this digital revolution as, a great equalizer in this space, whereby it's going to reduce the cost of delivering these wellness interventions and help expand it to a broader population. So for us, we see tremendous upside in this, and our insurance clients in particular that are paying for a lot of these benefits agree with that. I mean, for the longest time, it's been so hard to drive a preventative wellness intervention, meaning like meeting with a registered dietitian for someone who's pre-diabetic to maybe hopefully avoid them becoming a full-blown diabetic. Now we're able to deliver that at home to an individual, and we're seeing significant outcomes and significant cost reduction among our clients, which is so transformative in this space.
I love to hear that. Fantastic outcomes is really where it's all around. And I think that's what maybe the last couple of years and maybe the transformation of technology has allowed us to do, is focus on the outcome, which is so important. You touched on it earlier. Maybe the GlobalFit network, initially the ecosystem was maybe fitness centric. It's evolved into wellness, health, even lifestyle. This all takes time and effort, capital, partnerships, making the right decisions. Where do you see the ecosystem evolving to next? Where are you investing in your future partnerships, Tony?
Yep. So, I mean, to use an analogy to give a sense for kind of where we started back in 2017 when we kind of developed this new thesis and really reoriented GlobalFit was, we were just a big box gym network, which was super revolutionary back in the 90s, but had become somewhat stale. I mean, fitness had evolved into more studios and digital content, but wellness as a whole had become much more holistic, meaning it's not just about working out and your fitness, it's about what you're putting in your body, nutrition. It's about kind of stress, anxiety, depression, your mental state, which is mental health, and our mindfulness offerings. It's also kind of what we're seeing now is significant needs in financial wellness, because you think about the stressors on, families and working individuals to, reduce debt, meet mortgage payments, et cetera. You don't leave those stresses at home when you come into the office. So employers are seeing a significant opportunity and a need to invest in kind of financial wellness for their employees. Another ask that we're seeing currently is more in the physical therapy space, but physical therapy that you can address in kind of a digital realm. So people are at home, they're sitting at non-ergonomical desks, they're sitting for longer periods of time. We're seeing a lot of kind of musculoskeletal issues that can be addressed through not hands-on manipulation in the physical therapy environment. So digital can have a significant impact there. So kind of GlobalFit strategy going forward, and the analogy that I had back in 2017 was, GlobalFit was this huge grocery store that had 4,500 clients, 70 million eligible people, and millions and millions of folks that walk through the door every year. But all we were selling was bread. And that was our discount big box gym offering. We didn't have milk, we didn't have eggs, we didn't have cereal, we didn't have lettuce. I mean, all we were offering them was discount fitness. And what we've quickly realized is that our clients need and want more to drive those outcomes. And what we're really building in the future is really an integrated care model in wellness and in prevention. So think about it. We see a lot of our folks that meet with our registered dietitian might have an underlying eating disorder, which results in kind of a necessary referral to a mental health clinician. You see folks that are coming to us on the mental health side that have anxiety, depression, that some of it's being driven maybe by financial hardships and other struggles in their life, which then results in a necessary intervention from a financial wellness consultant. So our goal is really to build an ecosystem where we have all of these interventions and we can stratify populations, really understand what they need, and then deliver targeted interventions to an individual to drive the outcome that their employer is demanding of us. And everyone wins in that scenario. I mean, the employee gets the intervention and the care that they need, can live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilling life. And the employer is has the ability to retain an employee population that they've invested so much in. And frankly, employees are demanding those type of supports and interventions from their employers these days.
When you look at this ecosystem, Tony, I suppose there's a lot of new players here, whether it's fitness technology, wellness technology, insure tech, HR tech, fintech, all of which have a chance to build this ecosystem together. How do they interact? And how in this interaction do you manage to position GlobalFit to win in that ecosystem?
Yep. So, as a business to consumer company, our clients are employers and insurers. And, we take a lot of cues from them. And frankly, we think that over the long term, insurers and employers are going to kind of dominate and dictate the offerings that ultimately get delivered to the consumer, because frankly, they're going to be the ones paying for them. And what we're hearing from both of those stakeholders is we're tired of working with 12 separate vendors to cobble together a complete offering. And the data is siloed in 12 different offerings, and we can't extract it, we can't analyze it, and we can't really understand what's going on to drive interventions and outcomes. I've been hearing that for 5 years since I kind of moved into this role at GlobalFit, but I'm happy to report that you're seeing movement in the space, in the sense that you're not winning contracts as a vendor in this space if you don't have an open API, if you don't have the ability to single sign-on between platforms, you're not sharing data in meaningful ways to your employer or insurer clients so that they can really understand what's going on and drive interventions and outcomes. So what I see, and I hate all these acronyms and names, fit tech and well tech and insure tech, you're going to see increasingly a lot of overlap between those three verticals. You're going to see a lot of partnerships, and ultimately, I think you're going to see a lot of roll-up strategies. I think you're going to see a lot of private equity organizations really starting to move into this space and driving consolidation, because this market is ripe for consolidation, not just from kind of the financial engineering play, and that exists. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for roll-ups here, but really from a better, more holistic, more connected to what the employee needs offering. You can't have this data and these experiences siloed anymore because it's hurting the outcomes.
Yeah, it's a great reflection. I think when we look at the plethora of growing corporate wellness solutions, they seem to be evolving into being very narrow in what they're actually offering the corporate themselves. It's a very fragmented solution, a brilliant solution, a specific mental health technology platform. And I know this, no disrespecting that, but there has to be a holistic solution in mind. Speaking about consolidation, you have been on the acquisition trail in the past couple of years, building that more holistic business yourself. Where do you see yourself now taking acquisitions going forward? Are you looking yourself to try and build new capabilities, new parts to your own business?
Yeah. I mean, and just to touch on that and your previous point, I mean, even though a company like GlobalFit's been around for 30 years, I still think we're in the first inning of wellness. I mean, there's no dominant player. There's no Apple, there's no Nike in this space. And I think what folks I think fail to realize, because we've been focused on wellness for so long, is I think naturally in the evolution of this market, you'll have people go really deep in a certain chronic condition and be really good there. And that's only natural. But I think as you think 10 years out, it will make sense for a lot of these different divergent offerings to come together. And I do believe over the next 1 to 2 decades, you're going to see immense consolidation in this market. And that's not a bad thing, because it'll drive costs down, it'll make the interventions more powerful, and it'll really drive the outcomes that we've all been chasing. And in order to do that, you need more scale, you need the data to be in one place, and I think that's going to be incredibly important. So GlobalFit, yes, we've been doing a lot of acquisitions, but they've been smaller. They're really not at the scale that I ultimately envision the opportunity to be in this space, and we're going to continue to do that. And over the next few years, I think we're going to get a lot more aggressive with the investments that we're making in the different verticals that I mentioned, and more around kind of the patient journey through our platform to drive more significant engagement, more meaningful interventions, and more powerful outcomes for both the individual and our clients. So we're not slowing down there, but it's not going to be all through acquisition for us. There's a lot of things that we're building organically. And for us, it's going to be a kind of a typical buy versus build analysis. I think there's a lot of great opportunities we can bolt on, but we also have a lot of things that we're investing in heavily organically in our organization. And we talk a lot with our peers and kind of take their temperature. And that's where I think a lot of folks are that are similarly situated to GlobalFit from a size standpoint. You're seeing a lot of investments, both in inorganic and organic growth, which I think is great for the industry. I mean, we welcome that because, I mean, there's such a significant unmet need that, you know, even a GlobalFit can't meet in this marketplace right now.
Let's dig a bit deeper into that. Where do you think you're going to grow in the next 12 to 24 months? Do you think it's going to be in a state-by-state level? Do you think it's going to be in a certain type of company, maybe a certain industry that starts waking up to greater health and well-being, perhaps even international? Where are you kind of focusing your efforts on growth?
Yep. So for us, from an international standpoint, it's almost been a land and expand. We tend to be very successful winning like the US domestic population for a Fortune 500 employer. And then what we've been happy to see is the international employees start saying, what about us? I mean, you got this great offering for your domestic employees. Why haven't we rolled that out into the rest of the countries that you operate in? And that's been a very successful kind of land and expand strategy for us. And I don't think that paradigm is going away. People don't want, and in HR departments and employers don't want kind of different classes of offerings, if you will, between their domestic and international employees. So what we've found is that's brought us into, I mean, it's surprising to say 80 countries, our platforms in 18 languages. And, you know, we've got hundreds of thousands of folks in the international markets now. It pales in comparison to our size domestically, but we continue to see that be a trend for us in international expansion. You know, for us, I mean, we have footprints and tentacles in, you know, every state in the United States, and we continue to see that as a competitive strength for us, because employers, I mean, increasingly have employees throughout the country. I mean, GlobalFit, if you look back even a handful of years ago, we were primarily a Philadelphia-based company. Our employees went to the office every day, worked in an office in downtown Philadelphia. Now half of our employee population is spread throughout the country, and our clients, it's the exact same way. So being able to deliver products that are relevant in Manhattan and, you know, the Midwest and the West Coast, and now internationally, is going to be super important for you to be successful in this market. And it's where we're making a lot of our investments. And for us particularly, the international community and the international employer groups is really an untapped arena for us from an expansion standpoint, and something that we're really bullish on for the future.
Thanks, Tony. 2 questions to go. Second last question. Let me dig into hyper-personalization. There's a lot of focus just now around the need for solutions to be holistic, a bigger a la carte menu, more offerings to more parts of the employee base. How defined can you possibly get as a business when you're scaling up your business? How much can we really deliver hyper-personalized or individual solutions for individual outcomes? What are the challenges to that, and what do you think is possible in the next couple of years?
Yeah, and I mean, that directly aligns with kind of our thesis and our strategy for this market. And in order to be successful kind of in this hyper-personalization, we need 2 ingredients. And one is as many interventions as possible. So you need nutrition, financial wellness, because you have no idea what intervention you need to drive to that individual to drive the outcome that you need. And then you also need a very powerful kind of engagement, stratification, and assessment tool to really understand what Tony needs. And at this stage in his life, it might be financial wellness. And a few years from now, it might be more of a, you know, chronic condition intervention. So that to me is really the holy grail in this market. I think a lot of folks are chasing it, but no one has really achieved it. So being able to deliver a solution to an employer that has 100,000 employees, be able to kind of assess and kind of stratify that population and then deliver personalized interventions is really the holy grail and is what we're chasing. And I think what you've mentioned earlier is people have become very deep in certain chronic conditions and interventions. And that is a big leap forward for us just in the past 5 to 10 years. But what I think is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years is a lot of those very deep chronic condition interventions are going to come together, and there's going to be platforms that lay on top that really says, Tony needs this, here, let's get you to that. And Ross needs this, here, let's get you to that. Right now, we are still a little bit far away from that, but that is really what we need. And I think GlobalFit and a lot of players in this marketplace are chasing, and I ultimately think we're going to be very successful. I mean, collectively, the industry, and really driving the outcomes that we need.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think if you take anything from this conversation, it is the growing demand for strong, differentiated, personalized corporate wellness solutions, and the need for them in the future, and the fact that there are companies like GlobalFit moving forward. What is really exciting is looking ahead to see some of the investors that are going to come out of the marketplace and put 2 + 2 + 2 to equal 100. It's an incredibly exciting market. Tony, last question. I'm going to borrow it from Tim Ferriss, who has a fantastic podcast. The question is as follows. You are to write one message on any billboard for everyone to see as they passed. What message would you write?
I love that question, by the way. And I guess my answer is going to be a little kitschy, and I think we'll have to get the marketing team to polish these words a little bit. But I would say more kind of health is wealth. And what I mean by that is, I mean, I'm a pretty young guy, but I had a significant medical issue in my life right when I had my first child about 5 years ago. And it really focuses you on what's super important in this journey. And everything falls to the wayside, your career, your family, while you're struggling through something like that. And I think what we've finally realized as kind of a population and as individual kind of consumers of healthcare is that we have to invest in our own health and wellness. We have to be our biggest advocates for our own journey. And without your health, you really have nothing. You can't focus on anything else in your life if you don't have your health. So I think health is wealth, but I'm sure the marketing team can take a look at that, polish it up and make it a little bit more engaging, but it's so important. And I think the one positive over the past few years that I've seen is people across the continuum, whether it's our insurance clients, it's our employer clients, it's brokers, insurance brokers and consultants in this space, and the individual consumer has reprioritized around their own health and wellness. And I think now we've got everyone's attention, and it's really up to all of us. I mean, all of the operators in this space to really, I mean, deliver on the promise. And the promise was that, you know, we'll get you the offerings, the interventions that you need in order to really live your happiest and healthiest life. And that's our goal. And I think it's the goal of a lot of our partners in this space and a lot of our competitors. And it's a huge, huge opportunity. And I'm super proud and just privileged to work in this space. And I really wouldn't want to do anything else with the rest of my career. So, Ross, I appreciate the time and I appreciate the question. And maybe you can polish up that billboard for me a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the simple answers are the best. Health is wealth. Simple as that. Tony, congratulations to you and the team for 30 incredible years. We wish you many, many more, and for a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.